In this video, we'll look into how to draw a sci-fi inspired spaceship corridor inside the Procreate. And I'll break down the three-stage process that I used to create this drawing. The first construction stage, then adding texture and materiality, and then finally creating an atmosphere. So I haven't used any 3D software assist. All of this drawing is done inside the Procreate, and it's made up entirely from scratch. So let's jump right into it. So let's start with the first construction stage. For this drawing I used a single vanishing point plus the technique involving dividing corridor into 4 equal sections to achieve a perspective foreshortening. Sloped sections of the ceilings are made by connecting the intersections between perspective guidelines and the corridor division lines. Similarly, I've sloped the bottom edges of the corridor for that sci-fi effect. So back to the drawing, I've added a door to the next section of the ship at the end of the corridor, and then I also added see-through glass doors on either side of the corridor for some sort of bio-storage. And below those doors are the vents for the air filtration from within those storage units. At the ceiling level we have roof lights with rounded edges, again to get that sci-fi type of feel. So after the first pass was done, I lowered the translucency of the underlay, and then I went over the second time to define the elements within the drawing a bit more precisely. Like I've added handles and frames to the doors, I've added control buttons and hinges to the module door, and the little insert details between the walls and the sloped ceiling, and also the floor grills. Once the basic geometry has been established, I went ahead to add shading. I wanted to achieve this sort of grimy aesthetic as if the ship was in use on a mission for a while, so it had to feel like it's been in use. And hatching with a pencil made sense to achieve that sort of texture. And after the first pass was done, I then turned the iPad pencil on the side to get that softer charcoal effect on the flat surfaces and in the shadow areas. So the next and final step was to bring the drawing to the finish line by creating an atmosphere. I could have continued with a pencil, but it would be quite a long exercise. So instead I proceeded with the color filling of the large areas of the composition, starting with the windows. I thought it would be cool to add this graphic symbol on the bottom of the door, which I've seen being used on industrial sites, and it kind of gives the composition a sense that it's a utilitarian space. And I went over this pattern with a pencil to give it a worn down feel. I then proceeded to add colors to the doors. I used the marker to trace the area and then infill it with the colors because it sort of made the drawing feel a bit more natural around the edges compared to just using the selection tool to infill the colors, which would give the collage-like aesthetic. I saved time by drawing strokes following the same directions, and similarly I've hatched in all the other parts of the composition, including walls and floors. Balancing the intensity of colors was important because I didn't want to lose the pencil underlay and the kind of griminess of the original hatches. So I would start with more intense colors for the shading to see what I'm doing, and then I would bring it down by reducing the opacity. I've added light from above and under side doors to give the composition an evenly distributed sense of ambient light. Lastly, I've added reflections to the glass and contact shadows around the door and the floor to give the composition a bit more depth. Let me know in the comments if you like this video and you would like to see more sci-fi inspired drawing tutorials. So if you like this video, you might also like this other video that I made on how to draw an urban context inside the Procreate. So check that video out and I'll see you on the other side.